really happy to have you both here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Can you introduce yourselves, give us a little bit of background about you before we start talking about Del Mar?
So my name is Jessica Sheffield Zamora, and I'm a Costa Rican who has lived in Nosara for 13 years.
And I'm Haley McMillan Ord, and we have been here now for 16 years, and I'm Canadian.
Is there some British stuff in there too?
Yes, I was born in England, and actually the place we lived the longest was the Cayman Islands.
So, UK, Canada, Cayman, Costa Rica, 16 years. Costa Rica, lifetime. Yes. Then you went to the States to get your master's, if I remember right, from our last podcast?
I did, and then Nosara.
And then Nosara, and you've been here for a little while.
Yes.
So today we're talking about Del Mar Academy, and I'll start off this whole episode by saying thank you. This whole town and everyone needs to thank you guys, whether they know it or not. It's an absolutely phenomenal addition to the community, and I honestly do not think we'd have the families here in the same vibe that we currently do if you guys hadn't have done what you've done. So I publicly want to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
So, but let's get right into it, because I know it wasn't always easy, but as it stands, you guys are doing quite well. How many students do you have right now, more or less?
We have about 230 students this year.
Wow, that's fantastic. So as of we record this early 2019, you're 200 plus students and looking pretty good.
Yes, from many nationalities, which is wonderful. And we just had 8 new local students entering into our scholarship program for our middle school.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome, because you didn't, at one time, you didn't even have a middle school. So the way it started was, well, maybe you fill us in. How did the school kind of start as in grade-wise initially?
We started with CASA and Lower Elementary.
Okay, so toddlers and
the preschool,
the preschool, the little kids, ages 3, I think. Our son Sky was the youngest, but he was actually a little bit too young, but we put him in anyways. And I think our oldest were maybe grade 5.
So now, as we sit here today, you just got a fresh infusion. You said 8 new students?
8 new scholarship students.
And in middle school. And then you also have a huge announcement. I don't want to steal your thunder. What just happened for you guys?
Go ahead, Jessie.
Well, we just turned into a nonprofit foundation, which is very exciting for us because this will help us do much more than we've been doing.
That's awesome. So you have a full school now from toddler to high school.
Yes. And
you are now have a full foundation status. Like it's legit. So people can donate to all the myriad of things that you do. And it can get routed through a 501c3 for tax credit.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah,
correct.
Congratulations. I imagine that wasn't fun to set up.
No, that was tough. It was tough.
Yes.
We've had a lot of tough years over the past.
I know. Starting a school is a lot harder than it may seem, but you guys basically have a school out in the middle of nowhere. If you think about it, access to Nosara is not really good. And there's no reason to come out here unless someone kind of directs you. Well, now we have media publicity, but when you started this, we didn't.
That's right.
But now it almost seems like a model school for the rest of the country and other places to follow in many regards.
Nosara wasn't like this, 11 years ago when we started. We can't forget how it started and how different it was, even when we were opening our doors, right? I mean, Nosara has grown so much, but it was even more limited, the access we had to everything.
So why did you start the school?
We had moved here in 2002, and we knew we wanted to live here. Jesse had come from San Jose over into Nosara, and we couldn't stay because there was no school, right? And we had a little girl at the time, and we knew we were going to have more children. So we weren't waiting around for somebody else to do it. And that's what happens here in Nosara to this day. If you want something done, then people have to do it. And so that's what we decided to do.
That might be the quote of this episode, actually, Haley.
You do it yourself. Yes.
If once I'm done, get it done. That actually is so very true. A lot of the people are used to bigger cities and they come from more affluent areas that have goods and services and all these things. And here it's not necessarily like that. So it's like, well, why don't we have this or why don't we have that? It's like, well, go do it.
Go do it.
And then maybe we'll have it.
Go do it.
That's true. That's
but thank you for sharing that with us. That's a really honest statement. You're just like, somebody had to do it. Yes. I remember when I first moved here and I caught up with Burnam and I was like, so man, you're in a school now? What's going on? And he's just like, well, somebody had to.
Yes.
And to this day, that's still kind of where you guys are coming from.
I was pregnant with Kai when we decided it, and we needed also to have a school.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I told Bram, I'm gonna have to move to San Jose when Kai is of age. So I think the need was there, no doubt.
And not just for us. I mean, there was a few families here that needed schools. And I think the families that have arrived in the last 5, 6, 7 years, compared to the families that were here before a school was here, I think it's a different feeling. They are coming because there's a school here.
Right.
People used to come to Nosara because it was a beautiful surf village. There was yoga, there was health food. It was a bonus that there was a school here. Now it's kind of flipped. People are searching out the school. They find Del Mar, and Nosara is the bonus now.
Right.
Right? So it's kind of switched a little, I think, over the years.
I mean, all towns grow, right? Or not all towns grow, but towns like that are as desirable as this do. It'll be better for education as a whole, even for other schools, like for offshoots, because you guys were there as a pillar. People are coming in. That creates an atmosphere where more and more families want to be here.
And I think that's key because most of the beach communities are growing in Costa Rica, especially in Guanacaste. It's just a trend because people, Costa Rica is very popular around the world, and most of these beach communities are growing. What is special about Nosara is that it's growing with families.
Yeah.
And this really takes away a lot of the problems that other communities are having, where there's more prostitution and drugs and more like a party crowd. So I think growth is inevitable for most of these communities, beach communities. And I think it's pretty special that ours is with families.
You guys really did help cause exactly what you just stated. I truly believe that. And I think anyone really doubting with the community would recognize it. I'm sorry that we can't just hand you money and say, thank you, here's your reward. But a lot of the families here who don't even know who you are, after they hear this, hopefully they'll recognize it and you guys can get some pats on the back and some hugs
Thanks.
and that type of stuff. Now, let me ask you this. How hard was it to start this school?
Oh.
More than we ever thought it would.
Hands down, probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Wow. You've
I gave birth 3 times. With no drugs.
Yes. I think because we're so far away from any city, right? Being in such a rural area. And I think also the high standards we put from the beginning, having a Montessori school takes, that was, Haley was coming from a Montessori, Oceana was coming from a Montessori school in Cayman. Yeah. And Haley's the one that really brought that idea that it has to be Montessori. And I mean, what an amazing philosophy and program it is, but it's expensive. And it's hard to get the teachers, and it's got to have materials. Especially when you're starting a school from scratch.
So you had the classic disease that we all have. When you get to Nosara and you just start, well, this is beautiful and all, but what about this? You guys did the same thing. You're like, well, we're going to start a school. How about this? When you aimed up here. And then I'm guessing that life.
We aimed up here.
We always aim up here, I think.
But one of the things that we have realized over the years is there's 5 founders. None of us are educators. We come from different backgrounds, but none of them was education. And I think that almost helped us in a way because educators would know how much trouble or how hard it would be to open up a school. We didn't know that. We just knew we needed a school. We're doers. Let's get this done. And that's what we did. But I think if we had been educators, we'd have been, oh God, no way. I am not doing that. You know how hard it is to get teachers and materials and that.
And
but
accreditation.
We didn't know that. Accreditation.
But if you flip it, also gave us an advantage because there were so many perspectives from the get-go. And I think that has been key to our success. And I mean, even with Haley and I, we always, bounce ideas. We see things through different lenses. And that's our strength. Yeah. I truly believe that's our strength.
We've cried on each other's shoulders
many times. And, and we were 5 original founders, and now our board has really expanded. And that's a blessing. I mean, having more perspectives, more more different ways to see things and strengths. And I mean, really, really is helping us take it to the next level.
Well, it has to feel good for you to also have more support.
Oh, yes,
because it was 5 of you in a room at one time.
Yes,
how are we going to pull this off? And now your board's expanded. What, 8+ people?
Yes, and you know, I know of other schools, rural schools, who try to do the same. Maybe one person, and that's just like insane, you know, because having a school, you're dealing with the most precious thing of anybody. It is their children. Yeah. And there's too many components going around. It's very hard, you know, to have a school. And we've always talked, one thing is to have a school in San Jose, in an urban area where you can pick up teachers or materials very fast. Here we've had to be so creative. And I think that's helped us learn a lot, but also helped us learn to be very resilient.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's not like we have a deep labor pool here, and it's not like Nosara is super cheap to live at. So you have, on a very limited budget, how are you going to hire the highest level educator that you possibly can, who can even make it in this strange little dusty town?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's not the easiest equation to put together.
No, that's been challenging. Like finding great teachers that love Nosara, that want to stay, has been challenging, and being able to afford it here. We have a new head of school, Dr. Gabriel, this year, and he's reached out there in the world and he's found some really great teachers, and he has a lot of experience in international schools in different countries, in different continents. So he knows how to offer other benefits that we love here in Nosara to these teachers that doesn't necessarily is not necessarily money or increased wages, because we're challenged with that. I mean, we have a budget that we have to abide by.
Well, if he has a reach, though, to get out there, that's what you guys needed, because if you're just fishing in the same labor ponds, it's really tough.
There's also another thing going on that is very interesting, is that we are also training local. We have local teachers who are assistants, and they're growing in their role. We send them to, two of our teachers went to Mexico to get Montessori trained, and we're supporting them to finish their college degrees. And this, we want them to be our long-term
That's awesome. So the
teachers.
wheels are turning to where you can start employing the local populace.
We are pushing them to really become our lead teachers.
That's our key. That's the key, because we have local assistants,
and
like
they're
local,
amazing.
They're amazing. But like Jesse says, the support now that they're getting is now they can become Montessori teachers or lower elementary teachers that they maybe before couldn't do, you know? And they are our lifelong teachers. I mean, their families are here. They live here. This is their home, you know?
That's truly
so
how you
we're
change
gonna keep,
communities.
Exactly.
Like that's really something. So let me ask you this. What would you say were some of your biggest challenges that you've encountered along this journey?
Oh, there's so many. I think one of the biggest challenges that people are not aware of is the cost of running a school. In a rural area in Costa Rica, we are a socialist country, right? And that protects the worker, which is great, but it also has a cost. And in addition to any business, there's an additional cost to schools. And I don't think people really know how expensive it is. I mean, most of our budget, I would say more than 70% of our budget is for salaries and benefits, you know, and a lot of this goes to the government. And a lot of it doesn't even come back to our teachers because, you know, the magisterio, their pension, and a lot of the pension, you know, teachers come, they have, you know, the employer gives a percentage, the employee gives a percentage, and if they leave, we can't recuperate this. The government takes it. I mean, there's so many costs. People have no clue.
Idea.
And I think in the board, now as we have an expanded board, people know the challenges of the balance between tuition and being able to run the school. That is our finest line every year. We want to pay our teachers more, but that means you have to increase tuition. So I think as a board, that's been the biggest challenge in general to keep the school running and open.
Yeah, hands down, budget has been our biggest challenge. And it continues to be our biggest challenge.
Now, on the flip side, though, I would contend that's also your biggest objection. is when I first came here and we first put our kids in Del Mar when we rolled into town, heard the price tag, which was less than it is now, and I almost passed out. Like, it was like, wait, what? What? I thought I was moving this country and everything's cheap. I don't know if I'm going to make any money. I don't know what's going to happen. How am I going to do this?
Yes.
Your first time someone just says, oh yeah, how much does it cost to put your kids in? They might not be from New York or Toronto or places where private schools cost a whole lot more than they do here. Someone like myself, it was sticker shock. But because we were friends, we were all talking, and I was able to learn, oh, well, there's a lot going into this. It's not just an expensive school where people are getting rich off this. It's actually really expensive. And I'll take it a step further for you. Running a business legitimately and legally is not cheap here for anyone.
No.
Not in any sense, yeah.
Throw in all the salaries of the school and all the kaha and everything you were just describing, and then
in the campus. I mean, you walk in our campus and people are wild.
Yeah, you're not exactly sitting on 1,000 meters in a little building.
We got 11. We got 11 acres out there,
and from day one, we've invested every single penny in that school. Our own children go there, and that was the idea to open this in the first place. So, when you walk into campus, you see it now with our expeditionary learning, and, we're always improving. We're always putting more buildings, and, the cost, I think that's a challenge, but I think we've had other more personal challenges, running a school.
You also have the challenge of, you're the founders of the school. You're not educators. I mean, you guys are awesome at whatever you want to do, but you weren't trained educators, and you explained your naivety is kind of what got you into this, and it was a blessing and a curse along the way. But along the way, you've had to find people who are strong where you're weak and get the educators. You've had to change through principals and teachers and all this type of stuff. So how big a blow is it for you when a teacher's like, all right, I'm quitting, I got to go? Oh. What does that feel like? Because I know what it feels like for me. I run a business or two here, and when a good person goes, it hurts.
I'll give you an anecdote for that. We had to get rid of a teacher or two. This is at the beginning, and I had Lucy as a baby, and at that point we had to get rid of this person, and I had to go teach. I mean, I had Lucy as a baby, and I'm a biologist and I've done a lot of environmental education, but I had to go teach until we find somebody. And those are the challenges we had to head on, because it's not like you can just go and pick somebody else. Now our pool has expanded, and now there's many people wanting to apply to Del Mar, which is so different, right? That's what creates 10 years. And now people want to come and work here.
It's switched that way.
Right.
Like, people are
that's
now
like Nosara,
searching us. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so now Dr. Gabriel and Verena and the administration, they can be picky. They can find the people. They want people here for a minimum of 3 years. A Montessori program is a 3-year cycle. The IB diploma is a 2-year cycle. They don't want teachers coming and going, right? They give them a really good picture of what Nosara is like. But at the end of the day, when a person comes here, they still might not like it. They might not like the dust. They might not like the mud in the rainy season. They might not like the bad roads. There's all those components that you don't know until you've actually physically lived here. And it hurts the most when we have a fantastic teacher, a great teacher that doesn't like Nosara. That's the hardest to swallow, because you're like, but it's so great here. But it's not great for them,
right.
So it's tough. It's tough.
And I think the expectations, starting 10 years ago in our first, second, and third year, we did have families that came from Europe and other places, and their expectations of the school to be the same as their schools that were 100 years old.
Yeah.
I think that was that was the toughest for me, like emotionally at the beginning, because we were putting heart and soul, working so much to get this going. And I guess that criticism, we took it personally. We take it very personal because it was so hard, and we had babies, and it was so hard. And I remember having this conversation with somebody, and I said, I voiced it because I was crying for many nights, and you hear these people, talking and how, talking in our backs and talking about the school. And then finally I came to her and I said, I don't think it's fair that you compare, because they were comparing us to their school. And I said, I don't think it's fair that you're comparing us to a school that has been established for 100 years, to a school that is in their third year in a rural community. It's just,
and you guys
it's
are having
uncomparable
to teach when the teachers don't show up.
It's just not, you know, so it was so hard. I think, and Haley and I have, you know, we console each other, because I would call her cry about something and she would do the same, and we give each other strength.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a lifesaver, because it is not an easy project, and that is, you know, that's our saving grace.
Hey, would you say your hardest years were at the beginning or in the middle or recently?
Well,
When was the hardest time?
the hardest time was probably, those first 5 years. We had a tough year a few years ago. I mean, each year there's always a challenge.
Oh, every year.
I mean, come on, it's human nature. You're always going to have complainers. I mean, you have two different families. One likes the no homework policy. The other one wants more homework policy. You can't please everybody, right? I think what's happened is we've just gotten a little bit more resilient. You know, our skin is a little thicker. But it doesn't mean it still doesn't bother us. You know, when people complain, it still somewhat bothers us, just not as much as it used to.
I got you. You've learned how to take a punch.
We've learned how to take a punch,
We
Rich.
learned how to take a punch, and we love constructive criticism.
Yeah.
This is a school that we have to build together, you know, and we love constructive criticism. There's nothing better to improve. But it's hard when it's behind the back, and then how do you fix it? If you have a problem, come talk it. How do we fix it? And how do we fix it? You know, bring solutions to the table. We're all
I'm really
ears.
glad you said that. Like,
Yes.
let's pause on it for a second. That's a really good point. So you're saying that if someone has beef with you guys or questions about your policies, you want to hear it, and you'll open up your door for someone to come in and say, "Hey, what about this?" Or what about that?
That all the time. We've always said that.
100%. How do you fix a problem if you don't know it?
Yeah.
Well, some people are going to be scared to go tell you, "Hey, I got beef with this." Now, some people will, but a lot of people will just think it behind your back. It grows into resentment, and then maybe this is the right school for me, or something like that. So, I think it's good for people to hear, whoever's listening to this, to hear that you guys are saying we have an open door policy. If you have a question, please come tell us.
100%.
We want to hear.
And there's always challenges in any school in the world. I don't care which school you are, top elite schools in New York, there are challenges. And I think we've learned to overcome that. And I think our saving grace is that we've had a clear vision from the get-go.
From the get-go.
Parents come, they want this kind of school, they want this, they want that. We have a clear vision of where we want to go, because everybody wants something different. But we know where we want to go, and I think that's what also kept us through the hard times, seeing more towards where we want to go, despite the challenges. I think that's key, knowing where you want to go.
This is all interesting to hear. And I think a lot of people out there will benefit from hearing this stuff, because people just think Del Mar, this institution, and you guys are still super personal. You're still very open to hearing. You're still open to improving. You know where you want to go, but you still want to learn how to get there.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah. We still, I mean, somebody told me a couple of weeks ago, for the first 10 years, we were a new business, right? Which has its challenges. Now that we become a foundation, we're now a new foundation. We have more learning to do now as a foundation, because that's a different ball game.
So you've just it's just changed from this to that. So let's move on into the foundation benefits or pros and cons. First off, is there any negative to you guys achieving this foundation status?
I can't think of anything negative. No.
Outside of having to get it.
It took almost 2 years with like expert lawyers to know about non-for-profits. It wasn't that easy, right? Because it's a transition. It's not starting something from scratch, which is much simpler. Ours was a transition, so that was hard. But I think the positives are very exciting.
Let's go into them. So what are the major positives? I know you guys are really fired up, and I'd love for people to hear why this means such a great deal, not just to Del Mar, but also to the other schools in the area itself. Can you kind of explain that to us?
You know, as a foundation, we are going to be able to, we've worked with local schools before, but I think our outreach is going to be so much bigger. And to give you an example, we're just a non-for-profit foundation, and we were able to get a grant. And this grant allowed us to hire the person who is now the coordinator for Gardens of Nature for Nosara. And this has allowed us to now have a plan for this whole year to work with the 7 schools in the area. And we're going to help them with all the environmental education, but we're also helping them, and we're matching the hotels. We're inviting the hotels in the area to adopt a Blue Flag school. That's how we call the program.
Nice.
And we're really going to help them with all of their recycling and composting. The foundation, the Del Mar Foundation, is going to donate all the composting barrels, and we're making all the manuals and training the teachers. And now the hotels are going to come in, and they're just going to support this process throughout the whole year. And this really is going to help Nosara Recicla, because this is one of our biggest
So I'm just
issues.
about to go there, because I know your background, and we've talked at length about this before.
Yes.
So how proud are you to have the ability to reach out at this level after all these years, especially being president of Nosara Recicla, and look at our dump
Yes.
mess of a situation we're not going to go fully into on this episode. But how good a feeling is it to know that Del Mar now is reaching out? And the reason I'm making a big deal of it now is because the one thing that you educated me on is the kids who are teaching the parents about recycling. It's the kids who are teaching. I'm talking about the Tico populace in particular. Yeah. They're teaching the adults, hey, that's what that color container means, and that's what that means.
Yeah.
And I got into a debate recently with someone. They're like, the gringos all know about it. They just don't care. And I was like, all right, well, maybe that's true. But most sales are made after multiple closing attempts. The first person who heard about recycling didn't be like, yeah, man, that's great. Let's do it. The whole world. It's not like that. You have to hear about it, learn about it. Why does it make a difference? And if your kid comes home and your kid's behaving in this manner, there's nothing more awakening to a parent. It's like, wait, why? I didn't teach you to do that. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you now get to do on a broad level.
And Del Mar, we've worked with the local schools in many instances. We used to do the community day. We helped them the Blue Flag, but now we're taking it to another level. We've never wanted to be an island. I think that's important. Yeah. We've never wanted to be this great institution, and who cares what happens around? It's never been that way. However, you have to work so hard to get to a point where you can help others. You have to help yourself before you can
It all comes back
really.
to funding. It all comes back to money and
all
funding.
comes back to the money.
Yes, and I think now we're in that position where we can say, now we can really help the local schools. We know how to do it. We have a plan, and we have the funding to be able to do it, because, getting the composting barrels and the recycling barrels and setting up, having the manuals printed and having somebody that is going to go deliver all this, that costs money. Right. But in 1 month, I'm excited to say in 1 month that we are operating as a foundation, we're able to get this grant to now work with all the local schools, and I could not be more excited.
That's huge. So is that the grant writer that you...
This is more like through the Guardians of Nature that is part of Del Mar. We're really reaching out there for different foundations and different non-for-profits that will be able to, wanting to do this. And, I think through word of mouth and people knowing what we're doing, the amount of support I felt is unbelievable.
Wow. So your dream of... Well, I guess first having a place for your kids to go to school, you guys solved that.
Yeah.
And then your next dream of turning that school into a model for Costa Rica and Latin America and the world and beyond, that's even starting to happen a little bit.
Yes.
And through the Guardians, you're now getting in these super rural areas.
We are.
You're getting people to actually pay attention.
Yes.
That's congratulations.
Exciting. And then the scholarships.
So we're partnered with the Nosara Scholarship Association as well. Jane Marchand is the president of that.
Okay.
And so far they have 16 scholarship recipients in our school. With this, we can now reach out beyond the borders of Costa Rica into the U.S. and ask for grants to help with scholarships for local children. Yeah. There's a lot of companies in the U.S. that have specific interests when they're giving money. Some of them are for local children in Latin America to go to a private school. Mm-hmm. So we just need to identify those companies, reach out to them with we need to get a grant writer on board. And then we can start helping the scholarship bring more and more of the local Nosaranians into the school, which has always been our long-term vision. I mean, we've always wanted an equal 50-50 between expatriate children and the local Nosaranians.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. Over the years, how has the scholarship committee and the scholarship situation, like how has that progressed? Because when you first started, it's probably pretty tough because your expenses are super high. You don't really even have the teaching capacity, but you want to get the local Nosaranians in. It's expensive. And then, but if you just said, well, hey, Nosara folks, you can come for this price as opposed to this, which is what a lot of people's suggestion are, that what didn't necessarily work for you guys.
It's been growing little bit by little. We have those 16 children through the scholarship. There's a lot of sponsored children also. Like people that are sponsoring their Garner's child or stuff. That is like a specific area. And then the school has sponsored several children. You know, when a sponsor goes away, we've absorbed these children.
Right.
But
you're not limited to the 16 is what you're saying.
We're not limited to the 16.
No,
we have a lot of Costa Rican children in the school that are either privately sponsored, sponsored through the scholarship program, or sponsored by Del Mar itself.
Gotcha. And that's
we just don't know exactly what those numbers are.
And then we want to increase that.
Yeah.
But again, you have to make it in a way that we have to pay the bills. Otherwise, there's no school for anybody.
Right.
And I think that's the challenge. And now as a non-for-profit, it will allow us to apply for more grants, like Haley says, to bring more children.
So with your scholarship committee, the biggest challenge is raising the money to pay for a standard tuition for a local kid to go there, right? And then some people are like, well, oh, I don't know, what about this? That's your biggest challenge, as you just described. But what you're saying is now, because you're a foundation, someone listening to this from the States could make a donation, get 501c3 credit, and that's tax deductible, and it can go straight in, no problem, no questions.
And I think that's a game changer for us.
Hope so.
That's a game changer because up until now, it's been difficult to get a tax break. You know, we've had to go through different channels, and you know, people have donated and, you know, they want to keep going for 3 or 4 or 5 years. They hit financial problems. So then all of a sudden they have to stop. You know, it's been challenging, but if we can take it to another level and get companies to donate to the scholarship, get their tax deduction, we get more kids into the school. And at the end of the day, it benefits this community because now we're going to have local Nosaranians graduating with an IB diploma and then going on to universities and colleges.
Hey, how are their parents and grandparents feeling about this? What's the feedback?
I would love anybody to come one day to Del Mar just to observe any class, right? We're very open about that and see these children learning English. They learn very quick English. Going on field trips. We have an expedition learning program where kids are actually going outside to our national park system everywhere in Costa Rica. I mean, this opens these kids opportunities, but you see their lives change. And today, actually, I was we had the inauguration of our new lab was this morning. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And I mean, we've invested heavily on this science lab. And one of our scholarship recipients' grandma came. You know, she said it publicly, and she said, you know, how this has changed her son's life. I mean, she was so grateful. And here they are, you know, in the lab, there's different, it was a sample. So you could see cells. We have very potent, microscopes now. And she was going through all this and she said it and she said, I mean, hearing that, saying how this changes the kid's life. And, you know, children that are coming through this scholarship, they were selected because they're children that want to, you know, they have that drive. Because when they come to Del Mar, they don't know enough English. Their math is, you know, even math is different or sometimes lower or, you know, it's such a challenge for them to catch up, you know, because they have to stay after school. We have a lot of support for them. They have to stay after school almost 3 or 4 times a week. And you need those kids that want this. Otherwise, you know, we're not setting them for success. But when you see these children and how they behave at school, it's so beautiful to see them around, and I would love for people to actually see that for themselves.
Yeah, why not?
Yes, it's beautiful. It will change the community. You know, education changes people, and this is an opportunity that the families are so grateful for. And most of these kids strive, like they sometimes do a lot better than our that the kids that have been there, that the parents can pay because they have that extra drive of, I want to make it. Yes.
That's really good to hear. So how is it going for kids who come to Del Mar for a while and then leave and go back to wherever they may be from? Or how is that going? What's the feedback on that?
I have great feedback from parents. We try to make it like the standards that we have apply internationally. So kids going back to the U.S. do actually very well, especially if they've gone to the Montessori. It teaches them how to think. It also opens them perspective. When kids come here, it opens them a whole world. And, most of the feedback that we've ever had, some parents leave and it's hard to stay in touch. But the parents that have, it's amazing how well the kids do once they go back.
That's great to hear.
So that's very exciting.
And that was pretty much the driving force why we chose the International Baccalaureate program. Because we have such an international-based student body, we needed an education in those last years that will allow them to go to the U.S. or Canada or Europe or Israel or wherever they're coming from. So that's pretty much why the International Baccalaureate program
that's a good point. That makes sense.
Was chosen.
So Montessori up to third grade, and then from there IB,
and
then they should be positioned to lead their lives.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's considering Del Mar or right now beginning maybe let's move to Costa Rica for a little bit? Like, what would be your direct message to them? I
used to give the tours at the school all the time. And one of the things that I tell parents, which is, I believe so wholeheartedly, is when you raise children here in Nosara, they stay younger longer.
Yeah.
And they're getting the education as good at or as better than where they're coming from in the U.S. or wherever they're coming from. But they're outside more. They're outside. They're playing like kids should play. They're surfing. They're playing soccer. They're climbing trees. Yeah. You hear a lot about parents that are moving down here where they're having trouble with their kids in front of the TV or on their iPads. And I'm not saying our kids don't do that, because kids here do it. It's coming. But we've been so fortunate that the kids that have been here since the year one or in the last 5 years, 10 years, they've been able to experience their childhood, I think, a little bit longer, and that's kind of when I'm giving the tours and telling people about the education, all that. I think when I say that, usually it's the mom that goes,
the light turns on for a little bit.
That's nice. Yeah. That's
because
nice.
There's so much more to do here outside. Kids can ride bikes here, right? You can ride bike and you're safe.
Unless the road's too bumpy.
Unless the roads are too bumpy or dusty. But I mean, in certain areas.
Road burn.
By Del Mar, you can ride your bike. There's football fields. We have 5 football fields near Del Mar. The kids can walk over there and play football by themselves. They don't have to be supervised all the time. They can be kids. They can play.
I think I'll forever remember Solace just stomping around the Del Mar, wet, rainy, muddy, whatever, just...
No shoes on his feet.
Yep, just being a lumberjack.
Kids here don't like shoes. Our kids never like shoes. Nope.
That's the thing. The kids, it's raining. It's rainy season. And if it's PE, they're outside playing in the rain. They're doing whatever PE program they're doing in the rain. We don't care if they get wet. We don't have air conditioning in the classroom. So they're not going to come in and get sick, right? They'll come in. Maybe they're wet, but they go straight into their math class.
That's interesting. It's just a little bit more dynamic experience being in the jungle and being a little bit more into nature.
Yeah. And the other benefit here, which I have to say, now that my kids are a little bit older, is because of the adults, the entrepreneurs that are here, there's so many other options. Like you, for instance, some child that's interested in doing podcasts or voiceovers or whatever, they have people like you that they can come and learn from, we have carpenters. We have, like, a lot of kids want to be surf instructors. There's so many opportunities here for kids to learn from the parents.
There's some unique parents here. Actually, if I can interject, my kind of life goal and one of the big inspirations for this podcast was I'm trying to get, I don't know if community center is the right word, but what I want to do is kind of tap into the people who are in Nosara, even if they're just passing through. Like, for example, a lot of Bram's clients or my clients are our Inky Scouts are incredibly dynamic people who have a skill set
Yes.
that's pretty outstanding in their field, right? Well, here in Nosara, for whatever reason, these families are coming in. I'd love to get a location where somebody can come in. I kind of want to create like a TED Talk thing for here.
Yes,
is what I'm getting at. I'm trying to get enough money or get investors to help us take down the old banana property or part of it at least. And what I'd love to do is open it into, hey, so-and-so from somewhere is here. He's really good at this. And they just sit down and say, hey.
Yeah.
And we can ask them questions. And then I'd love to do that. Like we have, knock on wood, we're this close to having a chess program started. And the chess program will also be English, Spanish thing. So people are learning something and the language as they go. So like that's just one thing. I'd love to get like a mom's morning out type thing started. And Kai can go teach ballet to young girls and just like all this little stuff. I want to get a landing spot for it where we have our community events. And I want to
very needed.
I want to tap into what you just said because there's so much talent. Just think on the Del Mar.
There's so much that is living here for the full year or that even comes. I mean, we've had at Del Mar people from Pixar that has come and explained to kids how he drew. I mean, it was unbelievable. Everybody, even the teachers, we were wowed. So we get those kind of people with that level of talent, and we need to be able to share that. I mean, we've had families that represent almost 20 nationalities. It's unbelievable, you know, the multicultural that we lived here in Nosara. And I think that's something that we should, use to the benefit of the community, no doubt.
I think those people would also want to share it right now. Well, you have the schools, we have you guys, but outside of that, what I'd love to see is the community, like the walls kind of come down between the companies. And because the way it works is like you meet this person, you get stuck in kind of this crowd and you get comfortable there. But it's a small town, so you see all these other people, and then over time you get to know each other. What would be good is if we had a landing spot where, hey, you got something to say? Well, we got a lot of people who'd love to learn from you. Can you come in and teach us about compounding interest? You know, kids don't get taught that stuff. They don't. Just there's so many artists that are coming through too.
So many
artists who have different styles and variations and musicians. There's so much opportunity for us, and I think our little strange town in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by bumpy roads and dust. The one thing there's no lack of ingenuity or leaders passing through. So hopefully we can tie into that a little bit more. So thank you guys for leading the way. What's the most common objection or complaint that you get on a weekly or monthly basis?
I'll tell you a funny one, not a common one. We were once asked that we needed to put a snake fence all over Del Mar property.
Are you kidding?
Nope. We still have the piece of paper where it was written on.
That's hilarious.
A snake fence, and you know, this is the kind of request.
How much do snake fences cost?
How does it look? Like we had to laugh because we have to think. First is, how does a snake fence look like? I mean, I would
Can a snake crawl through most fences?
Oh yeah.
You're gonna build a wall?
This is like one of the weirdest requests we've ever had.
That's got to be up there in the top 1 or 2 or 3, I imagine.
It was one of the top. Yeah, it was one of the top funny things we remember. Me and Jesse keep threatening that we're gonna write a book.
You should.
We want to write a book on all these things. We keep notes on everything.
We have so many stories and anecdotes. Tell them what you think the title of the book should be. I mean, I
don't know if I can say that online.
Go ahead.
You might have to beat this up. But our book is going to be, You Can't Make This Shit Up. Honestly, some of the stuff over the years.
I think that would sell. Why go open a school? That's hard to make money with. This book's a brilliant idea.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. The good thing is that we've learned to laugh at some of the stuff and some of the
We've truly had some funny things happen to us at school as well. It's not all being complaints and struggles. We've had a lot of funny things. Do you remember the petting farm?
Yeah, I remember.
And we had sheep and goats. And one of our toddler teachers was out in the field with the toddlers
when Lucia
was a toddler. And she could see the ram looking at her. So she went over to pick up Jesse's little girl, who was 18 months at the time or something. And as she bent over, The ram came straight for her,
and blew her over.
hit her in the glute, and she went flying. But Lucia was not hurt.
She was
saved
untouched.
Lucia.
She protected her like nothing. So
Did she quit the next day or say it's me or the goat? Like,
Oh, no, we
one
can't
of us
say
has
what
the
she
goat?
said.
We cannot say
can't
what
say
she
what
did
she
with
said.
that ram.
Oh, and she ate the goat?
oh yeah, it was.
She bought that
dinner.
goat, and we're saying no more.
Oh my goodness. So there's been many funny instances.
We've had
I
them.
mean,
The petting zoo didn't work out so well.
Well, we had to build the high school there, so we had to
Gotcha.
get rid of.
How do you guys had ducks, chickens, pigs?
We still have the duck.
The ducks around.
We
ducks
still
around.
have the
and
duck.
we want to bring
Yeah.
more
Little duck.
animals back. That's another project. We have
Yeah.
many projects, but that's another project. But
We've had people ride their horses to school. Dr. Gabriel,
Yes.
our new head of school, rides his horse to school.
sometimes,
hilarious.
We've had some ups and downs. but-
and and also a lot of support. I mean, there's those families that are there,
Yeah.
and that support means the world
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah.
What kept you going during those hard years? Like, what let you stay in this project at the challenging times?
The support that we received from families, especially in the throughout the whole project, but somebody coming and saying thank you or just acknowledging, right? It really meant the world to us. As we've been going through all these challenges, I think people's support and family support has been key, and also some members of the community.
Oh yeah, the community's been really great. Businesses, we have year after year, we have businesses that support the scholarship program and us, and it is. That's the one thing that, besides each of us patting each other on the back, hearing it from those that use the school or here in the community, that's what really makes us feel good about what we do.
I totally relate, because when something's bad, everyone will talk about that, or everyone will pay attention to that.
Yes.
But if something's good, or if someone just gave it the old college try, but it didn't quite work out, which is what you guys basically faced your first 10 years of, now we got to do this, now we got to do that. It never ended. When somebody comes and acknowledges that, it does make a lot of difference.
It
Like,
does.
In the States, I think there's like this show, it's called Jerry Springer. It's this horrible, horrible, horrible television show, and it just like preys on the lowest common denominator of emotion. And I almost see like social media and some of our gossipy pages is the same way. Like if I go in there and type something really negative, the whole world will pay attention to that. And if you go in there and say, hey, Haley was nice to me, I really appreciated that, no one cares.
Yes.
That's kind of in the.
So a lot of the days where
That
you guys
happens.
were like dealing with all the complaints and the problems and the challenges, for every complaint, problem, challenge, if you could just get 1 out of 10 a pat on the back, I imagine.
Also, how can I help?
Yeah.
How can I help?
Well, that's powerful. That's a whole other
It's
level of support.
it's all our children are there, and some of the parents have come to say this. Like, if we're going through a challenge, how can I help?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes a world of a difference when we're doing something.
I don't imagine how can I help is said every day around your part.
No, but we do have some great volunteers as well. I mean, we need to recognize them. I mean, we have
And the committees.
we have committees there, and we have parents that come year after year after year, and they're volunteering. I mean, Jay Marchand's one of them. She has volunteered from day one at some kind of committee or level at the school. I mean, she's a rock star.
Wait, what do you guys need volunteers for right now?
The school has different committees, and for example, we have one that is the green team or the environmental committee that I lead, and we know everybody has their own little project going on, from beach cleanups to, I mean, we have many projects, and everybody leads a part of it, and it's amazing to have these people voluntarily helping the school. And a school is not made just by the teachers and the board members. I think what takes us to the next level, and enriches the experience for every child in there, is parent involvement. I mean, that has helped us do things we could never do.
I know the scholarship committee really needs some help. People that can help fundraise and grant write and
And support,
now
yeah.
we need to get the money in, for them. So I think she needs a lot of help.
I got you. Well, it seems the timing's perfect because you just got your foundation
Yeah.
status. So actually, I guess that's my next question. Where do you want to be in 2 or 3 years? Like, what's next?
I want ICE in Costa Rica to start turning to a little school and say, what's going on in that little school? I do think, do things and say, what's going on in Nosara? Like, what's changing in Nosara? Our education system, Costa Rica spends a lot of money in education, and but it's very inefficiently spent. And if we can show what these schools are doing here locally, we have 7 schools around the area that could start showing, what a great accomplishment it would be that we have some set of eyes saying, let's see what is happening here. Because what we're trying to do is to create this model. And I think in 2-3 years, hopefully that will be enough time to start showing like some very strong first signs.
I got you. So you want to go proselytize this mission of environmentally friendly, nature-oriented educations and lifestyles and all this type of stuff, and get it out there and get the kids teaching the parents as much as possible.
Yes.
And I don't think we're far off. I think that Del Mar Academy in Nosara can be a school that is known in the world. We're so unique, what we do, and we've done it under tough conditions. I think once we get there, people will be looking at Nosara and Del Mar even at a different level.
Yes.
Okay, so you just said that in early 2019. Let's go back on the calendar. How far back would we go before you couldn't say that?
We've always kind of said we want to be the best school in the world. We've always kind of said that.
From the first day, from the conception of the idea, the standard has always been very high to we want to be the best school in the world. So
okay, I believe that you said that. I believe that you thought it.
Yes.
But when did you actually think it might happen?
I think you just shoot for the stars, and however far you get is when you put such high standards, you might not make it there, but you're gonna go pretty far.
So you're from the let's give it our best shot and see how it goes.
Give it our best shot. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
What about you? But you just made an interesting statement. You believed it, and I felt the sincerity.
I think now, each year we get better teachers and bigger families, and I think we're just connecting more out there. People know about Del Mar now, not just in Costa Rica. I mean, people from Sweden, and they know Del Mar.
They're talking about it.
And I think what would be really nice now is with Jesse's passion and this environmentalism, I think we can be one of those schools where we're everywhere, and big time environmentalists now start coming to Nosara and Del Mar to do their pilot projects, or, because our kids
that's exciting.
Are prepared. I mean, our kids know, they live, breathe, and eat environmentalism at our school.
Well, you've also given the platform for so much, really. What I'm hearing you say, what I'm getting out of it is that you both feel super empowered by your staff and the families and by the quality and level of people that are on the inside of your organization now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas you had to start it, you're like, where are they at? And
I never heard it, but I was listening to it the other day. It was Steve Jobs' commencement speech.
At Stanford, I think.
At Stanford. And, it was very inspirational. But he said something very interesting, and it's like connecting the dots. And you can never connect the dots moving forward to the future, but you can connect the dots looking backwards. And I think that's what I'm starting to see, how all these dots are connecting towards where we want to go, and you can see it going backwards. And I thought that was very inspirational. It hit me when he said that, and I'm like, it's true. I mean, for me, it's from like just moving to Nosara and having a school, and now it's like, all these dots are connected, and now I can see it backwards, and you can't see it forward. But I don't know. I thought that was very interesting aspect.
That is interesting. I guess from the school perspective, as you're looking back, you're like, now 2010 made sense. But in 2010, it probably didn't make sense.
Yes.
2010 was
Yes. And yeah, those biggest challenges are what has made us stronger.
Yeah.
Well, hey, to credit to you, the last podcast we did, I think it was one of the most shared podcasts done yet.
Oh,
And we covered a lot of topics.
Oh, I'm excited
Just
to
so
hear
you know,
that.
that's
I'm
so
excited.
That's our Jesse.
there is an audience that's receiving this, even
That's
if maybe
exciting.
you don't feel it. So I hopefully the dots keep connecting and growing bigger
Yes.
and bigger. And again, a very heartfelt thank you from me and the entire community to you guys and the founders and what you did. You took it on the chin, and we're all a better place as a result.
Thank you for having
Rich.
us.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
It's an honor. Thank you for coming on, and we'll get you back to get an update in the not too distant future.
Thank you.
Thanks.